Long before modern laboratories began searching for solutions to climate change, medicine, and sustainable food, Earth had already run countless experiments of its own. Entire ecosystems flourished with plants so different, so efficient, and so strange that they challenge what is understood about biology today. These were not just ancient forms of life, they were living systems that once reshaped the atmosphere, controlled global climates, and built the very foundation of life as it exists now. Many of them are gone, erased by time, buried beneath rock, or reduced to faint chemical traces. Yet within their remains lies something unexpected, clues that could transform modern science. Hundreds of millions of years ago, during the late Silurian and early Devonian periods, the land was almost entirely barren. The continents were harsh, exposed landscapes of rock and sand, with no forests, no grasslands, and no familiar signs of life. But in quiet, overlooked corners, near river edges, damp soil patches, and coastal zones, something began to change. Small, simple plants started to appear. They had no leaves, no deep roots, and no flowers. Instead, they relied on primitive structures to absorb water and anchor themselves. Among these early pioneers were species like Cooksonia, one of the first known vascular plants. Cooksonia was small, only a few centimeters tall, with thin branching stems and tiny spore-producing structures at their tips. At first glance, it might seem insignificant, but its internal system for transporting water marked a turning point in evolutionary history. This simple innovation allowed plants to grow upright and spread beyond constantly wet environments. Over time, this led to the development of more complex plant life and eventually entire forests. Scientists believe that without these early vascular systems, the rich ecosystems of today would never have formed. As plant life expanded, it began to alter the planet in ways that were both subtle and profound. Through photosynthesis, these early plants absorbed carbon dioxide and released oxygen. Over millions of years, this process gradually transformed Earth's atmosphere. The increase in oxygen allowed more complex life forms to evolve, including the earliest terrestrial animals. At the same time, the reduction of carbon dioxide contributed to global cooling, setting off environmental changes that would shape the course of evolution. During the Carboniferous period, roughly 359 to 299 million years ago, Earth experienced one of the most extraordinary botanical eras in its history. Vast, swampy forests spread across the continents, dominated by giant plants unlike anything alive today. Towering lycophytes such as Lepidodendron could reach heights of over 30 meters, with thick, scaly trunks and crown-like clusters of leaves at their tips. These were not trees in the modern sense, but they formed dense forests that covered enormous areas. The environment of these forests was humid, oxygen-rich, and often waterlogged. Dead plant material accumulated in thick layers, decomposing slowly due to low oxygen conditions in the swampy soil. Over millions of years, this organic matter was compressed and transformed into coal. Much of the coal used in modern industry today comes from these ancient forests. In a very real sense, the energy powering modern civilization is a direct inheritance from extinct plant life. But these plants did more than just create fossil fuels. Their biology was uniquely adapted to their environment. Many reproduced through spores rather than seeds, releasing vast quantities into the air. Some developed intricate root systems that stabilized the soil and influenced water flow across entire regions. Others formed symbiotic relationships with fungi, enhancing nutrient absorption in ways that are still being studied today. These early plant-fungal partnerships may hold insights into improving modern agriculture, particularly in poor or degraded soils. Then, around 252 million years ago, Earth faced the most severe mass extinction in its history, known as the Permian-Triassic extinction event. This catastrophic period wiped out a large percentage of marine and terrestrial species, including many plant groups. Massive volcanic eruptions, rapid climate change, and disruptions in atmospheric chemistry created conditions that few organisms could survive. Entire ecosystems collapsed, and many evolutionary paths came to an abrupt end. Yet, extinction, while destructive, also creates opportunity. In the aftermath of this event, new plant groups began to emerge and diversify. Gymnosperms, including early relatives of conifers, became more widespread. These plants developed seeds, a major evolutionary advancement that allowed them to reproduce without relying on water. Seeds provided protection and nourishment for the developing embryo, enabling plants to colonize drier environments and expand into new territories. Among these ancient lineages were plants with remarkable chemical properties. Some produced compounds that protected them from herbivores, fungi, and environmental stress. Today, scientists study fossilized plant material and modern descendants to identify these compounds, many of which have potential applications in medicine. For example, certain plant-derived chemicals have led to the development of anti-cancer drugs, pain relievers, and antimicrobial treatments. It is possible that extinct plants once produced even more powerful compounds that have yet to be discovered. There is also growing interest in how ancient plants managed carbon on a planetary scale. Some species were highly efficient at capturing and storing carbon dioxide, locking it away in their tissues and in the soil. Understanding these mechanisms could help address modern climate challenges. Researchers are exploring ways to engineer or encourage similar processes in contemporary plants, potentially increasing their ability to absorb carbon and reduce greenhouse gas levels. Another area of fascination is resilience. Ancient plants survived extreme conditions, including high levels of ultraviolet radiation, fluctuating climates, and nutrient-poor environments. Their adaptations, such as protective coatings, efficient water use, and symbiotic relationships, offer valuable lessons. By studying these traits, scientists hope to develop crops that can withstand drought, heat, and other stresses associated with climate change. Despite these advances, much remains unknown. Fossil records are incomplete, and many plant species left behind only fragments or impressions in stone. In some cases, scientists can reconstruct entire organisms from these clues, but in others, the full picture remains elusive. There are likely countless extinct plants that have never been discovered, each with its own unique biology and potential significance. Even the plants that are known often raise more questions than answers. How did certain species grow so large in environments that seem unsuitable by modern standards? What internal processes allowed them to thrive under atmospheric conditions very different from today? And perhaps most intriguingly, what innovations did they possess that have no modern equivalent? These questions continue to drive research in paleobotany and related fields. Advances in technology, such as high-resolution imaging and chemical analysis, are allowing scientists to examine fossils in unprecedented detail. In some cases, molecular remnants have been preserved, offering glimpses into the biochemical makeup of ancient plants. While DNA rarely survives over such long timescales, other compounds can provide valuable information about metabolism and environmental interactions. The story of extinct plants is not just about what has been lost.